we do this, we're in the light of reality forever. All these thoughts passed through primitive minds, but these minds were very solemn and sacred in their thinking. They tried very hard to realize their utter dependence upon a divine power at the source of existence. They did not believe that they could stand alone. They did not believe that they could turn their backs upon the laws of heaven and build a world of their own. They did not believe in an atheistic culture or anything in which we did not trace our way back to the one truth, the one reality, the one inevitable. On our days, we kind of set aside Christmas as a symbol of giving. And each in his own way, and from his own heart, does some giving. The gift of heaven is interpreted in our human lives by the gifts of kindness, by thoughtfulness, by compassion, and by a sharing for a moment some of the realities that have come to our own observation. We find, therefore, the symbol of generosity, and the generosity is the sharing, finally, of life, the sharing of light, the sharing of truth. The greatest gift that we can give to any living thing is a share of the reality that abides within ourselves. So in the old days and so forth and so on, the giving of Christmas, which became identified with St. Nicholas of Myra, was a universal mystery. Christmas was sacred, giving was sacred, sharing was sacred, long before Christianity began. But they did take this, as Irenaeus tells us, and they took the older symbolism and Christianized it. They explained that in reality the ancient peoples were, in a sense, Christian people. They had the same teaching, the same essential reality, but they did not call it by the same name. They invented diverse symbols to represent the same truth that was to come to the world at the beginning of the Christian era. And so we have today the descent of the Christmas spirit by means of a psychological, astronomical theology, the symbol of the zodiac, the planets, and the great clock of eternity. If then we view it in this particular way, we will have some new thinking to do that will be valuable and useful to us. To the ancients, the great mysteries were birth and death. Birth was a coming forth into the obvious. Birth was an embodiment of an eternal life that existed both embodied and unembodied. Birth was a coming into manifestation of invisible principles and powers. Birth was a great and wonderful miracle which the wisest could study and the simplest could comprehend. It was something that was a constant manifestation of unknown realities. Even today, we have no full understanding of the mystery of a life coming into embodiment. We know its physical processes. We can analyze and time the various steps of the procedure. But how it starts in the very beginning, what is the mysterious flash of divine power that in some way comes forth out of the unknown? It is not in the bodies of the parents, it is not in the body of the child, but it is in the body of God. And all creatures, the parents and the child, are in the body of God. It is one mystery specialized in one of the great events of existence, the mystery of birth. And in this birth, the light of heaven begins to shine through. Many mothers have seen it in the eyes of their babies. We see it also as we go along. We see that the child is born closer to God than we are. We realize that its thoughts and its ideals and dreams are very wonderful, if fanciful, and in a strange way more practical than ours, and that in our process of trying to help this child to become part of society, we in a way diminish the eternity of it and limit it into the concepts of our own life way. So the child begins, and this is the mystery of the sign of Cancer. the entrance to the cave of the mysterious nymphs. And then it goes on around the zodiac halfway, from Cancer to Capricorn. And in Capricorn we have the symbol of death, or transition. Now we take it first as a transitional symbol. We see the various energies and resources of life gradually impaired. We find that the time comes when the body can no longer sustain the dreams, the ideals of the spirit. Also that in various ways, through ignorance, we have damaged that body so that it becomes more and more impaired, and that which was to be a temple to the Most High becomes a prison to our own mistakes. These things we have to face. But the time comes when there is a mysterious resurrection which we call death. For death is really the going forth in light, according to the Egyptian ritual. To come forth by day is to come forth out of the darkness of our own limitations into the light of eternal truth. And beyond the grave, according to the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Persians, and the Chinese, there was not darkness but light. All the darkness that there is here. And we may immediately depart from it and come forth into the fullness. We come forth into the radiance of the celestial sun. So the Egyptians believed that what we call the Book of the Dead is really a misnomer. And the great Egyptologists of the modern world, like Budge, are aware that it is a misnomer. For the name of this sacred ritual, as performed in the rites of the Egyptians of the Osirian Recension, is the Book of the Coming Forth by Day. And I know I talked to Dr. Budge, Sr., in Chicago years ago when we were discussing the story of the Book of the Dead. And I said to him, Dr. Western, is there any evidence that this book was originally a drama, that it was performed by living actors within the precincts of the temples, that it is not simply a discussion of the afterlife, it is a great drama of the life cycle? And Bud smiled and he said, it is certainly true, and I have seen copies, manuscripts of the Book of the Dead with the prompter's marks for the actors. It was a living drama, not merely a strange mythological account of something beyond our general understanding. And in this mystery of coming forth by day, we have the individual who goes forth in the light of truth. That the light within means that we retire not into darkness, but into light. And while the darkness may gather heavy upon the flesh, the more we press on into the mystery, the less darkness there is. And we find that the darkness belongs to this world and not to the eternity. Then we may ask, why are we placed here with this peculiar restriction? Why are so many people living and dying without believing in light? How is it that we struggle from day to day on a mass of unsophisticated purposes? How is it that we continue to follow little patterns that lead nowhere and are perfectly content to waste our years rather than to grow? Why do these things happen? And the Egyptians and the Persians and the Hindus have given us a good answer. They have pointed out that we are here just as the small schoolboy says, why do I have to go to school every day when I'd rather go fishing? This is it. We would rather have fun. We would rather do nothing important. We would rather lazily go along, doing as we please, and hoping that everything will come out well. But it doesn't. And it doesn't come out well because it is contrary to the plan of our own existence. The great mystery school, the great center of initiation for man is the human world itself with all that it contains. This earth is our secret house where we must learn how to attain our own conscious immortality. We are here to learn, to grow, and to pass through the rites of life. And these rites are basically three. The rite of youth and childhood is the first. The rite of maturity is the second. And the rite of age is the third. We move from one level of the mystery to another, and in each level there are lessons to learn. And those who learn the lessons graduate. Those who do not learn the lessons continue to drift along in their uncertainties. So in the great cycle of rituals, as broken up into the year, into the day, into the hour, into the minute, all these divisions are significant and have been made into parts of theology by our remote ancestors who lived and struggled and learned and died long before our time. But always the mystery was the same. Always the rite was the same. The purpose of life was to grow. The purpose of life was to release the light from within, so that instead of depending upon the reformations of physical society, we redeemed ourselves. As Paul says, the Christ in you, the hope of glory. It is our own inner divinity that must shine forth and lead us on the way of righteousness. We look everywhere for leaders, but the leader we never seem to look for is always here in our own heart. And it is this leader that speaks to us sometimes faintly through conscience, and often is silent for many years. Very often in tragedy and great loss we turn to this inner leadership, and then we discover that there is balm in Gilead, that from this inner life comes the peace, the security, the understanding, which redeems and regenerates the uncertainties of mortality. So here we are with the presence of the sovereign sun, that Akhenaton represented as rays of light, each ending in a human hand. The sun that was no respecter of persons, the sun that was not an autocrat, but was as mindful of the sparrow's fall as it was of the collapse of empire. This ever-present, utter intimacy of life, this life which is a seed, so to say, planted in everything and growing in everything, unless the thing in which it grows turns against it. And all this life has no cash value. It is far more important. We cannot buy it, we cannot sell it. But we can bestow something of it from our own hearts if we so desire. We can comfort, we can help to enlighten, we can serve generously the needs of life, but we cannot buy or sell the light of heaven. It does not come out of our intellectualism, it does not come out of our materialism. It is not to be found in the laboratories of science, but the base materials of it are everywhere. And there is nothing that man ever learns, ever studies, or ever believes that in one way or another is not an instrument of eternal light. So on Christmas we come when the sun moves northward, when the darkness of winter begins to break, and we look forward to the promise of another day. We are reasonably certain, even in our most pessimistic moments, that the sun will rise, that the winter will break, that the tiny green things will break through the earth again, that nature will be fruitful, and the human being will be mindful. All these changes are part of a great procedure, a great process. And this process is mentioned in the story of the mysteries of the pyramid, in the house of the hidden places. The pyramid is the symbol of this earth, for its chambers and its inner parts are also symbols of the mysteries of our physical existence. Every mood we have is a room. Every conviction that we nourish puts walls around us or opens them. Every wall is either a divider or a protector. Everything we do has in some way a sacred significance, either directly or by lesson. We learn by doing it well, we learn by doing it poorly. In both cases, learning is inevitable. So as we stand now on the dawn of a very difficult age, a time in which most of our hopes are clouded by the uncertainties that are occurring, when it's sometimes very difficult to keep faith